Welcome back to the fourth and final part of how I ranked first on the UK Bar Exam. In the first part, we covered the centralised exams, ethics, civil and crime. The second part, we looked at the advocacy exams, which included submission advocacy, examination in chief, and cross-examination. In the third part, we looked at ReDOC and the conferencing exam. And we're going to wrap everything up today with legal writing, which includes drafting and opinion writing. Guys, it's nice to have you back on the channel. If you're new here, my name's Taz and I'm a barrister based in the UK. And on this channel, we overcome the challenges facing law students and explore the nature of our minds through materials, supplements, and practices to create happy, healthy, and optimized mental well-being. To begin with, for opinion writing and drafting, you need the foundations in place. So I really do recommend get both of these. This is the Contract and the Tort Law Express book. These are basically summary books. They'll bring you back up to speed with all the key principles. For me, for example, the problem was on the course I spent 3-4 months chasing my tail, having forgot these principles because I did them in first year, which was almost 3-4 years prior to starting the bar course. So make sure before you actually start the course, you've got these under your belt. Equally important is this book, Remedies, by the City Law School. And for both drafting and opinion writing, there will be a remedies section. So brush up on your remedies. Don't worry if you don't have this book. I've drafted up the main chapters in my bar course pack.
This video is sponsored by Lexstreet, the online community platform for aspiring barristers pursuing a career at the Bar of England and Wales. Lexstreet offer self-paced courses to support students on the bar course and with securing pupillage. They provide one-to-one coaching in addition to offering a free online community where students can access live events including advocacy workshops and pupillage workshops. Sign up free today at lexstreet.com and we look forward to welcoming you and supporting you on your journey to the bar.
But I've also included a 3 or 4 page summary of all the key remedies just to bring you back up to speed. What's really helpful to get under your belt as well is having a core statutes checklist. This is the statutes that you're likely to encounter through opinion writing or drafting. An example would include the Sales of Goods Act. This book is the BPP Law School Core Statute book. A lot of it is included in here, but to make it easy for you guys, I've just included the checklist in my pack. Be aware of fatal flaws in opinion writing and drafting. Normally, it's where barristers considered to be negligent. How this might arise is that if you fail to sue the correct party or the main party, or you actually fail to identify what the main causes of action are in the question, or if you fail to claim for what the main damages could be for a client or fail to advise them of that. Last thing to say is I'm not actually sure if they've changed the structure of the exam. It used to be you were meant to do it in a hall for 5 hours like a written exam. Now I think it's a take-home assessment. And if it is, I was going to mention timing, but if it's a take-home assessment, I don't really think that's problematic. The first place you want to start for drafting is this book. It's edited by David Emmett. It's a City of Law School book and it's great. This is going to put your understanding in place. Take it from me. Initially, I skipped this book and just went into the templates and the precedents. And the problem with drafting is that if you don't have the fundamentals in place, you can't navigate through the questions because you are beholden to the precedents. So don't cut any corners with this. For those of you who don't have this book, fortunately for you, I've drafted the most relevant chapters of it into my bar course pack. Drafting and opinion writing, more than any other module on the bar course, comes down to experience. So for that reason, you can't afford to miss the SGSs, and you definitely can't afford to not do the homeworks because you need to be racking up those opinion writing and drafting air miles. You need to have a clear understanding of what you're going to be expected to do in the drafting exam. So by that, I mean you need to know the clear statements of case that you're going to be expected to draft. And these include, I'll put it up here, particulars of claim, or a defense, or if not a defense and a counterclaim. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, I'm going to say it anyway. You need to look at the mark scheme. You need to know where you're winning marks. So number one, you can avoid throwing free marks out the window. And number two is so that you can allocate your time appropriately to get maximum marks. When preparing for the drafting exam, you need to build a bank of statements of case from particulars of claim to defense and counterclaim, like I've said before, across the different areas of law, contract, tort, and you need to put them all in your trusted Ryman's folder. These will be invaluable when you get the brief for the exam because you'll have them nice and neatly categorized and organized into the areas of law, the statements of case, and you can literally just cherry pick the right one which presents itself in the exam. Before the drafting exam, you need to look at the BPP's drafting checklist. What a beautiful document this is. It summarizes everything you need to know, and it is honestly a must read before you go into that exam. Final thing to mention, my bar course training pack includes all the templates that I used, in addition to the actual exam question that I was presented with and my answer to help you guys out. The number one tip for the exam is that for each of the substantive areas of law, you need to have drafted a one-page summary of what are the basic elements of that statement of case that you need to follow in the exam. So I'm going to put up here one for tort, one for contract, and one for misrep. You need to understand these. This is the bread and butter of the exam, so make sure all these elements are in here before you go in there. You want to make a quick, well, I was going to say a quick plan, but if it's a take-home exam, it doesn't really need to be that quick, does it? Either way, the elements of the statements of case that you have, make a plan and just include one-worders of what's going under each heading, such as what's the cause of action, what are the remedies available, because that's going to be your guide through the exam. Next, check your list of statutes and see, are any of these relevant to the question in front of me? With drafting, the rule is always pitch your case at its highest. We're going to do the methods for particulars of claim and defense. So let's start off with the particulars of claim. Remember, this is just a rough guide. So the first thing to do, identify what's the cause of action. Once you have the cause of action, who is the defendant/defendants? Then after you know who the defendants are, you're asking yourself, well, who am I suing in this problem? And once you know that, then in what manner are you suing them? Then you put all the headings down, you introduce the parties, who are they? This might sound a bit in reverse, but before you do the background, you want to do what are the particulars of breach, because then you have a clear understanding of what facts you need. And once you have established what facts you need, you go back to the background and fill that in. Background being the start of your chronology. I was praying that in the exam a defense came up because I much preferred them. They are very systematic and the method that I'm going to talk about is a lot easier. The first thing to do is just brainstorm. What are all the possible defenses that you could use in this scenario? Once you've got a list, identify from the bunch what is the strongest defense to put forward. Then you systematically go through each paragraph of the particulars claim that you have with 3 highlighters: admit in green, deny in red, and asking for proof in yellow. If you admit something but you want to introduce more information, the rule is you admit it first and then you expand on it after. If there's something specific in a paragraph that you don't agree with, the rule is you always deny first, then you give reasons for your denial, and then you just admit the rest. Final few things to mention. Try, if possible, to leave a bit of room. It should be possible now to do a tidy up at the end. Go over everything, make sure it's nice, neat and tidy, and just check it against the mark scheme before you submit. Don't forget to sign off. And we've arrived, finally. I didn't think we'd make it. It's been a long journey to the final exam, which is opinion writing. And I want to say this, in terms of studying, we were given this book. However, I didn't really use it. I thought it was a lot of fluff in here, but there was 2 great sections. One was a checklist and the other was a 7-step process on what you should be thinking about when writing an opinion. I'm going to go through the 7 stages, starting with stage 1, which is that you need to read and understand your client's instructions. The second stage is that you need to answer the primary question, which is, what is it that my client actually wants to know? Stage 3 is absorb and organize the facts. And then stage 4, once you've done that, is construct a legal framework, which you're going to use to draft the opinion. Stage 5 is look at the case as a whole. And then stage 6 is answer all the questions, ending with stage 7, which is consider your advice. I'm not going to beat the attend the SGS's drum again, because you know what it is. What's very helpful to know from the outset, especially for opinion writing, as it is for drafting, is what are the substantive areas of law that I'm going to be tested on, such as occupier's liability, breach of statutory duty. These areas are all included as I don't want to say an exhaustive list, but as a comprehensive checklist in the opinion writing handout. Equally, so is the list of statutes which you are likely to come across. For your benefit, I'm going to include the two lists up here so that you've got a visual reminder. Let's talk some exam prep for opinion writing. So, starting off with, you guessed it, the mark scheme. Just have a look at it. Put it in here, and next we're going to move on to the most important piece of exam prep for opinion writing, because like drafting, this is a templates game. So get your Ryman's folder and categorize all the opinions that you cover into the substantive areas of law. To take the pinch out of things for you, I've categorized all the opinions that I used, and they're included in the pack. Opinion like drafting is extremely formulaic, so you'd be crazy not to use a plan. And what I'm going to try and do now in this section of the exam technique is just take you through the basic structure and then give you some tips. As you can see up here, the basic structure is an introduction, the facts, liabilities, next step, remedies, and then your conclusion. At the top, you'll have normally 4 columns, and these are your primary headings, your secondary headings, tertiary, and then your content. The intro is pretty boilerplate. It's you explaining who you've been asked to advise. Honestly, just go and check a template out. In the facts, you want to identify the parties, identify any abbreviations that you're going to use, and just take them through a chronology of the events. The relevant events, that is. For the intro and the facts, they'll normally just go into the content column of your table. Next is the liability section. There's normally 4 parts to this. The first is who are the potential parties that you're going to be suing? Then what are the causes of action or cause of action? Probably causes of action. And then in the next column, what are the elements to those causes of action? Fill them out. And then the final column is the content. At the bottom of the liability section, it's not always relevant, but you do want to always consider, is exclusion of liability relevant on this problem? And is there any argument that can be made for contributory negligence? The next section is remedies. Here you want to address what are the specific remedies for the causes of action that you're dealing with. What are any potential counterclaims that might be taking away at what the client might be entitled to in terms of damages. Then you want to address any PSLA and damages other than PSLA. The penultimate section is next steps. Remember that so many different parts of the opinion, you're going to need further information. So this section spans, the further information section spans across the entire opinion. You really want to make a list when you're going through the opinion of what pieces of that opinion, of the brief it is, that you need further information on to be able to properly advise your client. After you've done further information, then it's procedure. Procedure is pretty boilerplatey, so please just defer to the templates here. Finally is the conclusion, which is what are the likely prospects of the client succeeding with the claim. Regarding the structuring of the headings, if you have 2 defendants, a point to note is that the secondary headings become the defendants, the tertiary headings become the causes of action relevant to each defendant, and then the 4th heading is the subheadings for each causes of action. Another point to note is that if you have multiple claimants and multiple defendants, the secondary heading becomes that for the claimant or claimants. The tertiary heading becomes the heading for not only the defendants, but also for the relevant causes of action. And then the 4th heading is the subheadings for the causes of action. The plan for the opinion is the opinion. The time that you have for the exam is you just executing the plan. So be super vigilant when you're putting it together. And the most important thing to remember is this: ask yourself from the problem that you have, number 1, what are the key issues here? And what issues exist, but I could potentially deal with these in a one-liner. And this will allow you to organize these issues, ranking them in order of their priority. And once you've ranked them in terms of priority, then you know exactly how much time you need to allocate to each. Remember that you are being marked on weighting in terms of how much weight are you giving to particular issues in the opinion. That is a skill of a barrister. So keep that in mind when you're making your plan. When deciding which defendant or cause of action to put first in your opinion, how to organize them, remember you want to lead with your strongest case. So that might be in a legal sense where you have a very strong cause of action against a party, but equally you need to remember Is there a remedy available there? Does this party have the money to pay? And if they don't, that should come into your consideration. Final few things from me. We can't be throwing free marks out the window, so things like spelling and stuff like that, you should have that down. The second is that if you're in the exam and you're not sure what the cause of action is, my advice to you would be go with your gut. And the final thing to say, do a timed run on the mock. It's always good to know how long this thing's going to take to put together. Wow, that was a monster to put together. And I put this together because when I went into the bar course, I went in blind and I thought, you know, something like this would have been such a big help. So I do hope it's made the difference. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you want to support the channel, then make sure to like and subscribe. It really does encourage me to continue developing the channel. And other than that, guys, you know what it is. I'll see you at the next one.